We're going to pop the hood on your own biology to reveal exactly how our internal engines process energy, burn fuel, and keep us moving. Okay, let's dive into this with a mind-blowing contrast in pure physics. Imagine a standard car cruising down the highway, right? That engine is generating a massive 25,000 watts of power. Now, picture yourself climbing a flight of stairs. Your heart is pumping, your legs are working hard. But get this, you're utilizing just 200 watts of power. Your body is performing incredibly complex physical work on a tiny, almost microscopic fraction of the energy a machine requires. The sheer efficiency of your biology is just staggering. So here is our blueprint, our lesson plan for the human engine today. First, we'll meet your body's engine. Second, we're measuring human power. Third, we'll look at the ultimate fuel guide. Fourth, vitamins and micromanagers. And finally, the science of hunger.
Let's get right into Module 1, Meet Your Body's Engine.
Now, you've probably heard the word metabolism tossed around a lot, usually when people are talking about losing weight, right? But as a real student of the human body, you need to know it is so much bigger than that. Metabolism is actually the master process of homeostasis. Think of it as your ultimate internal thermostat and energy factory combined. It takes the nutrients you eat, converts them into usable energy molecules called ATP, physically constructs your cells, kicks out the cellular trash, and generates the exact amount of heat needed to keep your internal temperature perfectly regulated. It's literally the engine of life itself. And what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible balance required on this physiological scale. Your basal metabolism, muscular activity, and hormones are constantly producing heat on one side. On the flip side, your body is shedding heat through radiation, evaporation, and conduction. The fulcrum sits precisely at 37 degrees Celsius. Tip the scale too far to the left, and your engine freezes into hypothermia. Tip it too far to the right, and it overheats into hyperthermia. Your survival literally depends on this exact relentless balancing act. Moving right along to Module 2, Measuring Human Power. You have got to check out this absolute marvel of engineering and human endurance. This is the Gossamer Albatross II, an aircraft designed by U.S. aeronautics engineer Paul B. McCarty. It had an empty mass of just 32 kilograms and massively long wings. But the most incredible part, it was powered entirely by a human being. Yes, a cyclist literally pedaled this aircraft through the sky, pushing out a sustained 0.4 horsepower. That translates to a human record-breaking power output of 430 watts for an entire hour. That is the absolute peak of the human engine in action. Of course, most of us aren't pedaling an aircraft across the sky on a random Tuesday. We're just doing everyday things. And this brilliantly illustrates the vast, dynamic range of our daily energy burn. Sitting at rest burns a baseline of 100 calories an hour. A gentle walk doubles that to 200. Intimacy burns around 280. But look at the bottom there. Rowing demands a massive 828 calories an hour. Your body seamlessly ramps up from an idle state to absolute maximum throttle depending entirely on the physical demands you place on it. It's incredible. Module 3, the ultimate fuel guide. Let's look at the sheer energy density of the fuel we put into our tanks. In a laboratory, scientists use a device called a bomb calorimeter to physically ignite food and measure the exact heat it releases. And the math here is staggering. Fats are the ultimate dense energy source, packing 40 kilojoules of energy per gram. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, provide roughly 17.2 kilojoules per gram. So gram for gram, fat is carrying more than double the energy payload. It is the heavy-duty fuel reserve of the body. But how does that physics translate to actual real-world athletic performance? Well, look at this chart mapping time to exhaustion on an exercise bike. It shows us that while SATs are super energy dense, carbohydrates are the preferred rapid access fuel for high-intensity work. An athlete loaded up on a high carbohydrate diet, which maximizes their initial muscle glycogen, can dramatically extend their physical performance and time to exhaustion compared to a normal or high-fat diet. For immediate power, carbs are king. However, we have to look at the whole picture objectively. The source data is very clear. While carbs are excellent fuel, the type and amount of carbohydrates we consume heavily impact critical health conditions like obesity, diabetes, and even dental caries. This is exactly why understanding the glycemic index, which is basically just how quickly a food spikes your blood sugar, is a completely vital part of managing your engine's fuel intake properly. Let's move to and see how this builds when we bring proteins into the mix. Proteins aren't primarily burned for quick energy. They are your structural building blocks. Notice this incredibly complex metabolic pathway in the liver. To maintain all your physiological functions, to build enzymes, hormones, and muscle tissue, you need a physiological minimum of about 40 grams of protein a day, with an absolute baseline minimum of 20 grams just to survive. The liver acts as this master processing plant, breaking down these amino acids to literally rebuild you from the inside out.
Module 4, Vitamins and Micromanagers. So imagine having a tank full of gas and a beautifully built car, but absolutely no spark plugs. The engine simply wouldn't start, right? Well, vitamins act as those vital spark plugs. They're the non-negotiable micromanagers of our entire metabolic process. Because they're so crucial for things like tissue respiration and carbohydrate metabolism, running out of them has devastating historical consequences. Without vitamin C, the engine suffers from scurvy, causing bleeding gums. Strip away vitamin B1 or thiamine, and you face beriberi, leading to heart failure. Lack of niacin triggers pellagra, a terrifying condition leading to severe dermatitis and dementia. These aren't just minor supplements. They are the chemical keys for your survival.
And finally, Module 5, the science of hunger. So the crucial point is that hunger isn't just a grumbling in your stomach. It's a highly sophisticated neurological event orchestrated by a control room deep inside your brain called the hypothalamus. The lateral hypothalamus acts as the hunger center, demanding fuel, while the ventromedial nucleus acts as the satiety center, telling you to stop eating. They communicate using chemical messengers, hormones like leptin, cholecystokinin, and ghrelin, which are constantly reporting your nutritional status directly back to the brain.
And getting full happens in this beautifully staged sequence. Satiety doesn't just happen after you digest. It starts in the pre-absorptive phase. The very active chewing and the receptors in your nose and mouth begin signaling your brain immediately. Next, as food arrives, mechanoreceptors in your stomach physically stretch out, sending a second wave of signals. Finally, in the post-absorptive phase, the central hypothalamus processes the chemical arrival of glucose and fats, firmly locking in that feeling of being completely full.
But what actually happens when the fuel stops entirely? The source data maps out the extreme, unyielding mathematical limits of human survival here. In a state of total fasting, the body mounts an incredible defense, dropping its metabolic rate down to just 60% of normal to conserve energy. Under these extreme conditions, the human limit for total fasting is approximately 40 days, or a staggering 25% loss of body weight, burning off roughly 1 kilogram of tissue a day before the system ultimately fails. Which leaves us with a truly profound thought to end on. We've explored the sheer efficiency, the incredible power output, and the extreme limits of human metabolism today. You are operating a miraculous piece of biological machinery. If your internal engine can actively adapt its thermostat, perfectly balance its fuel sources, and literally rewire itself to survive up to 40 days without food, what other incredible limits is your biology hiding? I really hope this masterclass explainer has left you as fascinated by your own body as I am. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time as we explore more amazing science.